Good morning, everyone, and welcome to. Well, it isn't. It is. Are we on the Talking Shop, Jack? Is that what we're on right now? Is that the
J&B,
show
I
we're
don't
on?
know. I mean,
I
listen,
don't think so.
we're
I don't
trying to
think we're on the
help their
J.
ratings, Mac.
Right. Well, really, we're on the Mac and Jack Sports Show, but it is the Mac, Jack, and Jim Big Football Show, and I will get you the right banner here in a minute, folks. Always starting off with a bang here on the Mac, Jack, and Jim Big Football Show. Jim Jeffcoat right now is in L.A. He's signing autographs. He still thinks he's a superstar. So he'll try and get in. He's going to do everything he can to get in today. Keith Angle will also try to get in. He's on vacation. Pags is following the Phillies. So he's got things, and maybe he might not make it in. Jack, it might be just me and you all the way to the end. And speaking of baseball, Jack, 3 of the wild card teams beat 3 of the teams with the byes. You had Philly beating the Braves, Texas beating Baltimore, Arizona beating the Dodgers, Houston beat, I think it was the Minnesota Twins, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's best 3 out of 5 to playoffs. It's a dangerous situation for a team. You lose your opening game. I mean, you're in trouble. I don't want to hear it's a long series. There's plenty of time. I mean, the Dodgers losing 11-2 to the Diamondbacks, and Clayton Kershaw's postseason struggles continue. The Diamondbacks score 5 runs before he records an out. And, Dodgers could very well lose that series now. They were counting heavily on Kershaw, their one reliable starter, to come through. He didn't yesterday. The Phillies upset the Braves 3-0, and the Phillies are peaking at the right time. And Atlanta, who was the best team in baseball during the regular season, is maybe falling a little flat, come playoff time here. And Houston always seems to show up for the playoffs. They beat Minnesota. Texas holds off Baltimore. Texas and Baltimore is going to be an interesting series. I think the Orioles could bounce back today. I wouldn't even count out the Twins. They play with a lot of energy, so I wouldn't discount their chances. And of course, I wouldn't count the Atlanta Braves out. Dodgers, I'm actually a little worried about, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, listen, this is, as you said before, we've talked about before. It's a short series. Get a pitcher that's hot, and the team is hitting the ball well like the Phillies do, and it could be over quickly for some of these teams that have been in first place almost all year. Some of them anyway. So, good morning to Pickles. Good morning, Jason Gonzalez. Glad that you're aboard with us today.
Hey, Jason.
And get shoved. Get a shovel. The Braves are
Braves
finished.
are not finished. I mean, Braves will probably bounce back, and win today, and it's going to be 1-1. They're not finished. The Braves.
All right, Jack. Well, we shall see. Maybe Pickles is right. I'm with him. Get the shovel out. That's Jack's pick for the World Series, so he's a little defensive about that, Pickles. But he'll get over it. Jack, any final thoughts on the Chicago-Washington game? We covered it on Friday, but for those who haven't been listening, of course, the Bears finally look good. DJ Moore is a stud. He's a great wide receiver. Justin Fields played again 2 times, second time in a row without making mistakes, and the Bears defense finally stepped it up, Jack.
Yeah, I'd be concerned if I were the Commanders because it seems like the bottom suddenly dropped out of their season. That's a game they have to win. They play the Eagles again, the Dallas Cowboys on the schedule within their division, and the other, games that could be a little difficult for them. And you have to figure you're going to have to beat the Chicago Bears to have any chance of going to the playoffs. And did Eric Bieniemy came over as the offensive coordinator from the Kansas City Chiefs, and Sam Howell has been coming along well in these few games so far. I know he did struggle in one of them earlier, but it's the Washington defense that was supposed to be their strength that really didn't show up against the Chicago Bear team that was struggling mightily. And finally, with Chicago, Justin Fields had the big game they were looking for. He hooked up with DJ Moore. Everyone's happy over there. And they kind of paid tribute to Dick Butkus. The day Dick Butkus passed away, Chicago Bears, did his memory proud, with a big
Yes.
performance. But the Bears, make no mistake about it, the Bears aren't going anywhere this year as far as making a playoff run.
I don't think so either, Jack. I still think they're at least a year away. They still got to get some pieces over there. Their defense has to be upgraded, definitely. But it's good to see them win, as you said, on the day that they kind of, Dick Buskus passed away, and again, we agree with Pickles here. Rest in peace. So we do our picks at this time, folks. Our top three against our favorites. Now, these are the favorites that we have picked. These are the ones that are favored going into the games. We also do an underdog pick, me and Jack. Hopefully, Jim Jeffcoat will be in later, and we'll do that later. So, Mac, my top three, Jack, I got Kansas City -5 at Minnesota. I got Buffalo beating the Jags in England by more than 5. I have Detroit -9 over Carolina. And my underdog pick is the Cardinals +3 versus the Bengals. So those are my three picks. To let you know real quick before you go, Keith did mail in his picks. He's got Philadelphia -4.5 at the Raiders, or at the Rams, sorry. Las Vegas -2 versus Green Bay. Detroit -9 versus Carolina. And his upset is Pittsburgh +3.5 versus Baltimore. What do you got, Jack?
I don't have anything that you guys have. I'm a little different here. I mean, I didn't see the latest odds today because they sometimes switch a point or two somewhere.
Yeah.
So I'm basing it, off what it was a day or so ago. I like the Patriots at home. They're favored by only 1.5 over New Orleans. I mean, that's virtually even money. And you mean to tell me they can't beat the New Orleans Saints at home? The New England Patriots, they're going to bounce back and do that. I like the Miami Dolphins at home, giving 11 points to the Giants. How do you like that? 11 points to the Giants. The Dolphins lost by 4 touchdowns to the Buffalo Bills last week, and the Dolphins were arguably the hottest team in football going into that game. There's going to be hell to pay for the Giant, defense, I think, in this game with Miami. And I do have one of the similar picks that you have. I do like the Kansas City Chiefs in Minnesota giving 5 points away. Even though the Chiefs got the W against the Jets last week, they really weren't too happy with their performance. Even Patrick Mahomes was saying, look, we got the win, but I have to do a lot better. And you could sense that Kansas City offense is going to be functioning at a much higher level. The defense is going to make adjustments. And for my underdog pick, I mean,
we'll save that for the end. I did give mine away, but we'll save that for the end. A little tease there. Let them wait a little bit. The producer Linda, who is in third place, has Baltimore -3.5 versus Pitt. She likes Denver -2 versus the Jets. San Francisco -4 versus Dallas. I stayed away from that, but I don't think it's a bad pick. And she did take Minnesota as a dog against Kansas City. Maybe she believes Kansas City hasn't totally overcome their problems yet. We shall see. It should be pretty interesting.
Or maybe she has a lot of faith in the Minnesota Vikings. They did make the playoffs last year. Had a solid regular season before losing to the Giants in the playoff game. So, at 1-3, they won last week. If you believe in the Vikings, that could be a turnaround. I don't believe in the Vikings, though.
I don't either, but she does. So we'll see what happens. We'll do our college football review right now. So Rick, hey, Rick's going along with. Rick's a big Minnesota Viking fan, so he likes Linda's pick. So there you go. All right. So college football is exciting as ever. Most games anyway. Some were kind of laughers. Ohio State, number 4 ranked, beat Maryland 37-17. Maryland was in the game early, but Ohio State ended up.
Something about Ohio State. I'm not a big believer this year. Something is missing with that squad.
They get better normally as the year goes on, Jack. The receivers are getting better now. I don't either. To tell you the truth, I don't think they're a championship team, but I do think they're a contender. They're definitely a contender this year. I wouldn't be surprised if they make it a top 4 at all. They stay there all year. They got to play. They beat Notre Dame. They got Penn State coming up. I think they'll be able to beat Penn State. So I don't know that it's not a very tough division. Penn State always plays well until they play Ohio State. Hopefully, they get in there and they beat them this year. We'll see. Oklahoma beat Texas. Big upset. Oklahoma played more physical than Texas. And I thought Texas was the number one team in the country. But Oklahoma beats Texas. It's a close game. I don't know how far Texas will fall and Oklahoma will come up. But they did play a lot more physical than they did. A big surprise for me, Joe.
Texas offense, they just struggled at times, more than you think they would have.
I agree. Florida State stays going. They should. A lot of people think they're number one in the country. They beat Virginia Tech 39-17. Georgia rolls over Kansas 51-13. Number 2 Michigan beats up Minnesota. The Golden Gophers there 52-10. And you had Notre Dame getting beat pretty bad by Louisville. That's how they say it anyway. Listen, Notre Dame, I don't understand the coaching over there. I haven't understood it in the last few years. They're bigger. They're stronger than Louisville. They try to throw against them. Louisville has a lot of speed, and you could see how fast they were compared to Notre Dame yesterday. Notre Dame, and tell me I'm wrong, Jack, they've only had one athletic quarterback, I think, in the last 100 years, right? They're all drop back passers. Everybody's talking about how great the Notre Dame quarterback. He's like 30 years old. He's been in college football for 10 years. I mean, he's standing back there. He's taking punishment. He's not mobile. And unless you got a Joe Montana at your quarterback, pocket quarterbacks in college, it's very hard to be a pocket quarterback today, Jack.
No, the era of the pocket quarterback is over, especially in college football. I mean, maybe in the NFL, even though the offensive lines are generally faulty, a quarterback could be most effective in the pocket, if he has blocking. But in college football, so many more plays are designed for the quarterback to run than it is in the NFL. I mean, they have designed specific plays that are part of the offense constantly. And, with the Notre Dame football team for years and years, you get this feeling that they have a feeling of entitlement. Like, oh, we're Notre Dame. We get all these TV dates. We get this. We get that. That they're given, it seems, a little more favoritism, than some of the other teams. And maybe with the schedule as well. It gets kind of tweaked a little bit, maybe a little more in their favor. Correct me if I'm wrong there, but that's my perception. Between a little schedule tweaking and the TV dates, it's kind of like a feeling of entitlement with Notre Dame.
I don't disagree with the entitlement part that you're saying there, but they do play a lot of top-rated teams. Louisville was number 25. Ohio State's number 4. I forget the other guy. They're playing top-ranked teams, Jack, and they barely came out of a couple of them. Ohio State won like in the last play or something, but it just seems to me, and I think Pickles is agreeing with me here. To have a pocket quarterback, you have to have a good offensive line and a great running game. They're not even using their running game, Jack. They're not doing play action passes. They're spreading the field. They're putting him back there, and he's getting killed. And he's just not good enough, and he's not mobile enough to be able to take advantage of the one-on-one coverage against Notre Dame right now. He can't just take off with the ball and run for 30, 40 yards. He's not built like that. So they either got to change the way they're calling the games and start running the ball more and try to manhandle the other defenses, or they got to get a different type of quarterback. One or the other. They just don't have the talent that mixes with the way they're scheming the games right now. So,
well, they haven't had it seems like they haven't had an effective pocket passer since Brady Quinn, but that's my feeling.
And Brady Quinn really didn't make it in the NFL too well either. So, I mean, I think he was a little overrated. The great games that I saw, LSU against Missouri. LSU doesn't have a defense, but they did win 45-39. So a lot of points there. Georgia Tech upset Miami 23-20. There was some bonehead play. Go ahead, Jim.
Oh, Mac, we got to talk about that. That takes us back to the New York Giants when all they had to do was take a knee to beat the Philadelphia Eagles. Instead, they hand off to Larry Zonka. He fumbles, it gets returned for a touchdown. You didn't have that immediate agony. All Miami had to do was take a knee. The clock would have run out. They would have won. Instead, they hand the ball off. They fumble. Georgia Tech recovers, and then they hit a 44-yard pass and win it to wire, with a couple of seconds left.
Yes.
I mean, I hate to fire coaches. I hate to call for coaches to get fired, and I'm not calling for it in this situation. But how do you stay with a coach? It's the most basic of things. Take a darn knee, and the game is over. You don't hand the ball off and leave that tiny possibility of a fumble, and that's what happened. What a disaster for Miami. How do you come back from this, Mac?
I'll tell you the truth, Jack. It's the same. I agree with you. I had, it sent bad memories through my head there. I was thinking about the fumble in New Jersey with Pisarcik and Zonka. And listen, the offensive coordinator got fired. The head coach was removed eventually. I think that at the end of the year. And again, you're 100% right. How do you not just take a knee? It's the rule is there for you to use, and they didn't use it. I don't get it. So I agree with you 100%, Jack. The only thing, talk about bringing back some bad memories there. That was ridiculous. So another one that was interesting was Colorado again coming back and winning at the end, Jack. And their defense gives up a lot of a lot of easy scores in the beginning. They got to come back to win, but they did. So you got to give them credit, Jack.
A lot of credit. Early in the year, I thought Colorado had a halfway decent defense. Jim Jeffcoat told me he didn't think they did. Jim was right. I was wrong, as it turns out. Colorado, they have a lot of spunk. They have a lot of firepower, with Shakur Sanders there. You kind of wonder how high Shakur Sanders is going to go in the draft. A lot of people think he's going to be a top 5, selection. But that's going to kind of be intriguing. He could stay in school an extra year. Let's say his dad wants him there. That's going to be a very interesting scenario. But Colorado, they're not going to be in the playoffs. They're not likely to be a top 10 team when all is said and done by the end of the year. But the way that program has gotten reinvigorated, and football is fun in Colorado now. So kudos to Deion Sanders.
Listen, I agree. I think he's doing a great job there right now, and they're going to be nothing but better by the end of the year, Jack. Next year he gets to recruit a whole new class and do whatever he's got to do with the NIL, and I think that they'll be really good next year as well as this year. USC, they won in overtime. Caleb Williams really didn't look that good this game, but they pull it out in overtime. Let's see, they beat Arizona State 27 to 20. No, I'm wrong. And the last second field goal, or am I right? They beat Arizona, or is it Arizona State, Jack? Arizona. 43-41 in overtime. So there you go.
Caleb Williams is projected to be the number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft if he does come out. He might not come out, because reportedly he's making a couple of $1 million a year with this new college deal where you can make money. If he has inconsistency during this season, you kind of wonder, is he following the path that Justin Fields did with the Chicago Bears? Even though Justin Fields wasn't the number 1 overall choice, I think he went something like number 11. Justin Fields was inconsistent at Ohio State. At one point, Justin Fields was going neck and neck with Trevor Lawrence, who should be the top pick in the draft a couple of years ago. And then his stock kind of went down a little because of the inconsistency. You wonder with Caleb Williams, is that going to be the case? If he has 3 or 4 games in which he's so, is that a red flag? Because if you're truly a great quarterback, you're going to be good every game, even if your team's not, you're going to be good. I mean, and yesterday he didn't perform poorly. Don't get me wrong. You could say he was passable, okay, his performance, but it wasn't a slam dunk number 1 type of performance that we hope to get out of him.
Yeah, I think when you go to play USC right now, you're concerned about Caleb. Your game plan for the pass. Have them beat you with the run. And I think that's going to, as the year goes along, Jack, I think it's going to show when he comes up against better teams, better defenses. Not that Arizona is a bad team. They're not one of the top 10 teams, that's for sure. And I think they play Notre Dame this year too. And that should be interesting because you're going to have Notre Dame, who's supposed to have a good defense, playing it against Caleb Williams. That should be interesting. So there was some great games I did watch yesterday that weren't, from the top 10. Patriots against New Orleans, as you said, New England is the underdog, or are they favored by 1.5? Let me make sure. They're favored by 1.5. So if you figure home field is 3 points, which that's normally what they say, they would be underdogs. Mac Jones had a terrible game last week, Jack. And this week, they won't be playing with Judon. They're good outside linebacker. Christian Gonzalez will be out. These are long terms too.
Is Christian Gonzalez out? Is he questionable?
No, he's out.
Okay.
He's out. In fact, they got J.C. Jackson from the Chargers to kind of replace him. I don't know if he'll be playing today or not. Maybe he will, but that's why they went out and got him. And there are still a few offensive linemen. Stevenson's banged up. They're like questionable whether they play or not. So New England's banged up, going to play New Orleans. Carr, I think, is going to play again. He's got that shoulder problem. I don't know why they don't try Winston. Jamie said Winston, but I think Carr's going to play. I know that he's number 1 and they paid him a lot of money, but I don't know if Carr gives them the best chance to win. So you still think that New England, even with all the injury news, Jack, is going to be able to pull this off?
I mean, I'm going by history, Mac. We know what the New England team has been all about under Bill Belichick. They're 1-3. Maybe that's not a shock. They've had a tough schedule. They played horrendously, last week against Dallas. You'd think there would be a big bounce back, especially their defensive unit, who wasn't that bad last week. Mac Jones had a couple of crucial turnovers, a pick six and a fumble, that was returned for a touchdown. I just don't see, the New Orleans Saints being able to mount much of an offense if the New England defense shows up the way they have to do. I know they have injuries. I look for low-scoring game. Can New Orleans win a game 17-13? Yeah, sure they can. But I have to believe New England's season is on the line. They're 1-3 because if they lose to New Orleans, how are they going to make up that game? Who are you going to make it up against? The games get tougher. You got to have your division rivals. You play the Miami Dolphins here a couple of times. You play the Buffalo Bills. Yeah. You have another game with the Jets left. It's just, they got to win this game to go to 2-3.
And Jack, that's not counting. That's not counting the other games they play in that are out of the division. New England had the third toughest schedule in the league. It's just I don't know why they didn't make the playoffs last year that I can remember anyway. I don't remember them being a wild card team, so I don't even understand why their schedule, not the division, but outside the division, was so tough.
But this is a game, you look at your schedule, you figure we're at home against the New Orleans Saints. The Saints are a very average team. They're not a good team. You mentioned Jameis Winston, the backup, thinking, well, look, if Derek Carr's that hurt, Winston should be playing ahead of him. First of all, I don't consider Derek Carr an elite quarterback, even though they signed him. The Saints gave him big money. But what was interesting was Jameis Winston, the last 3 years has been on the New Orleans St. Rust. At one point, he was the heir apparent to Drew Brees. Then he got hurt after Brees retired. He lost his starting job. And he elected to stay with New Orleans even after they signed Derek Carr. He elected to stay as a backup. That kind of tells me where his ambition might be at. He likes the town of New Orleans. He's comfortable going to work there. He's certainly entitled to do that. And I'm not criticizing him for that. He has to live his life the way he wants to. But as far as having ambition to be a starting quarterback somewhere, that's showing me that type of ambition's, kind of gone in that sense that, he could be an effective backup, but that's as far as it's going to go.
Well, Jack, and you might be right, Pickles. Zappe might make an appearance. Hopefully they don't, because that's all the Patriots need right now would be some kind of quarterback controversy to really mess them up.
If they replace Mac Jones because, with the game still in doubt, with Zappe, that tells you right there, it's all over as far as him being a quarterback of the future. Last week was different. They were far down. If you're far down and you want to get a spark and you put in your backup, okay, I can understand that. Your starter's just having a terrible day. You want to try something different. But if Zappe comes in, let's say with New England losing 7-3 in the third quarter, Mac Jones isn't your starter anymore going forward. It doesn't mean he's not going to start games, but already everything is in motion to get another quarterback. It might be, they brought in Bill O'Brien, who coached Mac Jones at Alabama as well. And that's not, this could be a referendum on Bill O'Brien if it doesn't work out with Mac Jones.
You're 100% right. Listen, Mac Jones, I think they pulled Mac Jones out too because he was taking a beating too. I think they were.
He was awful. Mac, the worst quarterback performance this season. Isn't it strange, Mac, the way the media and the fans focus on particular quarterbacks week by week? It's kind of laughable in a way. Zach Wilson was the most maligned quarterback in football. Okay, he was the most criticized. He has an excellent game in a losing effort, but he had an excellent game. Everyone's leaving him alone this week. No, they're taking an attitude. Let's wait and see what Zach does against Denver. It's no longer get rid of Zach. The Jet fans will say, okay, we'll wait and see now.
Yeah.
But the New England fans, now Mac Jones is the one criticized. Daniel Jones is now coming under criticism, but Giant fans know Daniel Jones is their quarterback, but they're mad at the front office. Well, why did you pay him all that money? Now, he wasn't worth it. And you hear that now. Kenny Pickett at Pittsburgh. Questions are coming out about him, as well.
Yeah,
and it
Ritter,
goes week to week.
Ritter, Howell, all these quarterbacks are coming under pressure.
Well, it's not Sam Howell. It's Sam Howell a little bit, but he didn't play too badly against the Bears. It was a losing effort. But yes, Sam Howell could easily be under the microscope. Yeah.
I want to go back to New Orleans because you brought up Jameson Winston being second string because he's happy with it. I think he signed before they got Derek Carr, Jack. He's already under contract when they brought in Derek Carr. I don't think he signed after Derek Carr got there, if I'm not mistaken. I think he thought he was going to be the number one quarterback before they.
No, not this year. He knew he was going to be a backup. He said, he likes the city of New Orleans. They had already got. I don't want to say I'm certain, but I'm pretty much so that they had already gotten Derek Carr, and he elected that he was going to stay because they wanted him to stay there as a backup too. It wasn't that he wasn't wanted; he was wanted there, and yeah.
Well,
Cam Newton, please, not Cam Newton, Rick. No way, way.
Who was the quarterback for the Saints last year?
Well, it was Jameis Winston and Andy Dalton.
So Andy Dalton basically.
Dalton beat him out.
Right.
Beat Jameis Winston.
So I if I remember correctly, I'm almost positive, Jack. They signed. Winston's making a lot of money for a backup. And I think he was the heir
He's
apparent. I
making
think
about $4 million a year. He's not making a lot of money. No, he's making like about $4
for a
million a
backup, I
year.
think he's making six something.
I'm
I
not
think
certain
they
it's
gave
the
him a pretty
exact
penny.
amount, but I
But
don't think
anyway,
he's making a lot.
we'll see what happens.
Well, you got to
Yeah.
remember,
Well, maybe you're right. I'm not sure.
Jameis
So
Winston.
anyway,
Yeah, okay. I just want to say he was the number one overall choice in the draft. Actually, people easily forget at one point. And Marcus Mariota went number 2 that year, and then look, both of them are backups now.
Morning, guys.
that is true. Good morning, Robert Butler from Sportscope. How you doing today, Robert?
Hey, Rob.
I'm good. It's like old times here.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. It definitely is. Yeah, exactly right. That's exactly right. So Robert, I send you the topics and things, of course, pop up by the time we come to Sunday's show. So I know you follow all these signings and stuff. Jonathan Taylor signs a $42 million. I mean, they were ready to get rid of this guy, right?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, they turn around and they signed him to a $42 million contract. I think it's 24 guaranteed, if I'm not mistaken.
20.
Yeah. I was really surprised too. I thought they were going to try to move him, and I think management, and they probably talked the owner Jim Irsay into saying, "Listen, we're just a really good running team right now. We're going to run that read option. Maybe, just maybe, they're looking at the success that DeAndre Swift and Jalen Hurts are having in Philadelphia, because that was the whole idea of bringing in Anthony Richardson and Shane Steichen. They've got a fair to reasonably good offensive line up there in Indianapolis. And like I said, I'm still pretty set back and shocked by it, but good for Jonathan Taylor. He's a good, very good player. Always been good. He got a little injured here lately, but he's pretty solid.
Rob, let me ask you this. How are the other running backs going to feel like Saquon Barkley and Josh Jacobs? They're going to look and say, wait a second, Jonathan Taylor got his money. My teams could have worked something out for me just like that, and they did not.
Yeah. And both are basically on 1-year deals. Running backs in general, really, they just don't have the leverage. It just depends on what the team thinks. Now, look at the way Tennessee's using Derrick Henry. If a running back can throw a touchdown every week, maybe you can rationalize using it. But look at McCaffrey too, though. I kid, but look how good McCaffrey's fitting in with the 49ers. So,
well, Taylor didn't sway though, Robert. Saquon signed. These other running backs signed. Taylor took it. I'm not playing. He skipped games. Now he said he was injured, or they said he was injured, and all of a sudden he signs, and now he's ready to play. So it's kind of that makes injury go away, I guess, the big signing. But I mean, those other running backs weren't willing to sit out.
Yeah,
and he was.
Well, look, Le'Veon Bell looks like that backfired on him. So it's hard to have a clear right answer for this particular situation, because you've seen it go one way with Le'Veon Bell, and now we've seen it go with Jonathan. And I think he was a little banged up. So he was. The truth somewhere in the middle, Mac.
I think, Mac, Rob, I think it's the goodwill. Jonathan Taylor did show up at camp. He wasn't a distraction. He didn't give them a hard time. And I think the Colts are even looking a little forward past this year in the future. He's only 24 years old, Jonathan Taylor. Let's sign him. Let's give him a little more than we, anticipated or wanted to. And we'll move forward with him and put this behind us.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah.
One more thing on that, Robert. Does this make the Colts the favorite in that division now? Because they're all tied at 2-2.
Yes, absolutely. No. I think Tennessee's in really good shape. It's probably still a 2-team. I think that those 2 teams with the rookie quarterbacks both are playing better than expected, especially Houston with Stroud, who's got a real good shot at Rookie of the Year. It still feels like it's between Tennessee and Jacksonville. Tennessee's got both of their two better offensive linemen back today. They play at the Colts. I say that, and I'll go up there and lay an egg, but they're playing really well. Got a pretty good front seven playing well defensively. It still feels like a two-team race, though. But we'll see. I mean, hey, that's why you play the games.
Right.
Darren played on paper.
That's the truth. That's the truth. And as Pickle says, the running backs will look a lot better by Thanksgiving. They always do.
Yeah, when it cools down.
The NFL, yeah, exactly. The NFL ratings dropped last week by 4 million. Now, compared to 150 million or two, I mean, it's a small drop in a bucket. But I think this kind of sends a message maybe to the NFL that, hey, enough with the Taylor Swift stuff.
Yeah, TMZ reported that. The Taylor Swift stuff, 18 shots. Guys, I thought maybe 2 or 3 at max, kind of moved past it. But 18 shots of Taylor Swift during the game. Even they said it's overplayed. They meaning Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. Media's making a little too much of it. Then they're saying that wink, wink. They're probably glad that they're doing it. But, yeah, it is a little nauseating at this point. I mean, if I wanted to go to Taylor Swift concert, she's got them everywhere, you know?
Rob, your inside info. What does it tell you? Is Taylor Swift going to Minnesota for the Chiefs game or not?
I tell you what, that would be a good offensive game for her to go to. My guess is she won't go, but hey, who knows, man? She's got a movie coming out that's basically her concert so my guess is she may do it. She may do it because she wants to promote that, and she's kind of wanting to just not be the performer, but we'll watch the performer, you know?
Yeah. So, Robert, do you think that this is going to be a trend coming up now that Taylor Swift is getting all this publicity by, going out with a football player, going to a game? Can you foresee any other stars maybe in the future start going out with NFL players and getting publicity just from that?
Yeah, that's a possibility, especially with the money that's being made. Live events. That's why commercials cost so much, guys. Because everything is recorded. I have a DVR myself, and a lot of stuff is being streamed. Advertisers flock to live sporting events, which means eyeballs, which means money, revenue. I could definitely see it, Mac. It's a good point.
Yeah,
115 people watched the halftime show, and it peaked. It peaked when Rihanna did the halftime show last year. So, curious of what Taylor Swift would bring.
True. Yeah. Kenny Pickett in the Union Gap there. Is he out for what I saw was he's out for 3 weeks, the quarterback of the Steelers?
Well, now they're saying he's going to play today. Not unless something's changed overnight.
Wow.
Yeah, Kenny Pickett, man, is supposedly going to play. That's what I thought. What you're saying is what I thought. And then I read they're saying he's going to play. So,
guys, they have a tight quarterback room there. Mitch Trubisky, the backup, Mason Rudolph, third string. And Trubisky and Rudolph could have gone elsewhere, but they elected to stay with the Steelers, even as backups. But you would think Mitch Trubisky, a third overall pick in the draft, going that year ahead of Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson in the draft. And I'm not being critical of the Bears taking him at that time, but now he's with the Steelers. And you would think Trubisky would want to get a starting job somewhere to keep that opportunity there. And if the Steelers that Pickett out a game and Trubisky played really well, is Kenny Pickett really the slam dunk franchise quarterback? I mean, I question that. They want him to be that, but is he that? If Trubisky came in for a couple of games and played lights out, couldn't there really be a serious quarterback controversy in Pittsburgh?
Well, remember he played some last year. I think he kind of knows what his value is, Trubisky, and I believe in his mind he's okay with getting that backup money paycheck to hold that clipboard, Jack. If you ask me, wasn't he a backup for Josh Allen at one time too?
At Buffalo. He went from, which was interesting because his offensive coordinator was Brian DeBall at Buffalo.
Okay.
When DeBall came to the Giants, there was a lot of talk that Trubisky was going to follow him to the Giants because that was DeBall's guy. But Giant ownership wanted Daniel Jones as their quarterback, which makes you wonder, was DeBall stuck with Daniel Jones? Was that his guy all along? Jones had a good year last year. But this year, Jones is struggling. What's the deal with Daniel Jones? Because people are now questioning, why did the Giants give him all that money?
That's a good point, Jack. I mean, go back and look at it, guys. Daniel Jones was drafted the same year that Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen were drafted and Baker Mayfield. And it looks like that Daniel Jones.
I think it was the year before that. Or something. It wasn't on the same class. No, it wasn't.
2018.
1 year, yeah. The big talk.
But that's even worse if you look at it, though, because
he drafted ahead of Dwayne Haskins. That was the controversy. People felt the Giants should have taken Dwayne Haskins, and when they took Daniel Jones 6th overall, I think they thought the Giants were reaching too high.
Yeah, that's you're probably you're right. It might have been 17, which that makes it even worse because where's his development at? You know, my thing about Jones is you mentioned Mitch Trubisky. I was saying that maybe this is the Brian DeBall, Mitch Trubisky, and the head coach there at the Chicago Bears the first year, Matt Nagy, with a bunch of magic tricks. Now they're out of magic tricks. Now it's just he's got to know the offense and make big throws. Jones does, and every time he does, I cringe, man. Other than when they play Minnesota, I'm just like, oh God, please. And then I'm sure Mac, you still having nightmares about that Monday night pick six, 97 yards. But
that was a terrible throw, Robert. That was.
That's when I turned it off, Mac.
But Rob, Max. Thing is, well, the Giant offensive line is doing Daniel Jones no favors. But don't you think a really elite quarterback could still be effective even with a faulty offensive line? Because, you look at some of the players like Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow, since they've been in the NFL with faulty offensive lines, they've still been effective at the very least.
Yeah, Joe Burrow, Joe Burrow, he got all the way to Super Bowl with the defective, but Justin Herbert, his left tackle was out most of the season, guys. It was around the first month. Rashawn Slater was out. And, of course, they got with the bad coach, they got all the way to the playoff game and almost won that game. Should have won it. Was they up 28 points against Jacksonville? So, that's the line is a big deal.
You can say what you want, but Daniel Jones has one more playoff win than Justin Herbert at this time. So let's talk about.
Yeah, he does have one more win than Herbert. Yeah,
and Mark Sanchez has 4 playoff wins.
Let's talk about
that's true.
It's true. Let's talk about the Jags playing in London again this week. When is it going to happen, Robert? When are the Jags officially going to move to England? I mean, I know.
They
They're
played
not
in London last
the city
week,
of Jacksonville.
They got this week too, Jack.
They are. Okay, sorry about that.
Yes. Let me finish. So Jacksonville is not cooperating with the stadium for the Jaguars with the owner who owns another team in England, and that's why they go play there so much right now because he can see both teams play at once or whatever the thing is. How long do you give the Jags before they end up in England?
Well, an anonymous owner back in March, told Pro Football Talk that they're going to have not like this year or next year, maybe not in the next 5 years, but a whole division in Europe. A whole division in Europe. That was mentioned back in March. NBC's Pro Football Talk brought that up. There's games in Germany. There's games in London. Like you said, there's even though he's not originally from London, I guess he, like you said, he has that other team over there, Mr. Khan. I wouldn't be surprised. Plus, Jacksonville, for some reason, they have attendance problems down there. It's really more of a now. It's better now because they've got Lawrence, but it's really like a college football area in that part of Florida.
Yes, it is.
You know.
Yes, it is. So, but anyway, I mean, I know that this might look at Big Jim Jeffcoat that's just popped
Oh,
in,
that's
folks.
Jim.
Well,
Okay.
that's Jeff Code. He's normally on the right-hand side of the screen. Okay, I'm not. They switched his position. He's complaining.
Well, I'm
Left
normally
tackle,
have-
right tackle. There he goes.
You're at
Hey,
the
Jim.
airport. So,
yeah, I'm going
so
to.
what do you do? Did you just
Did I
get in,
just-
or are you leaving?
No, I'm leaving. I'm going to McAllen, Texas.
All right.
Oh, nice.
And I know Jim thinks he's a star. He's going to go get autographs. He's going to sign autographs in Texas. I don't know. So Jim, so real quick, Jim, before you get going, I want to get your picks in because Jim's going to come in and do his picks. I mean, he was really worried about that. So what do you got for picks,
Well,
Jim?
I don't want Jim to have any excuses when he doesn't make our new playoff format for picks.
Okay.
The first place guy gets a bye. The next two are wild cards.
First pick is
And the
Chicago,
others don't make the playoff round.
Chicago.
My first pick is Chicago.
Chicago.
That was
Chicago won on Thursday, Mac.
Jack just continued. Okay, so you got
Okay. My first
Chicago and Washington. You said, Jim.
I'm joking with you. It was Thursday.
Okay.
My
yes,
first pick
it was.
was,
So what's
for favorites, I got
Yeah.
let me think about it. I think that Tennessee is playing Indianapolis, so I'm going to pick
yes.
Tennessee. Okay,
Okay, you got
Tennessee over
Tennessee.
Indianapolis
Oh,
as a favorite,
okay.
and then also I'm going to have. You got me a tough one.
You need some help. How about the Niners? Take them, Jim.
The Niners Cowboys. The Cowboys are going to win it. It's going to be really close.
Oh,
It's going to be really close.
It's,
So
are you hearing him? I'm not.
I like the Rams this week.
Okay, so
Wow. Yeah.
okay,
ahead.
the Rams. That's your underdog.
Yes.
Okay, that's your underdog.
And I got Baltimore.
Okay, so who else you got for your other two favorites, Jim? Let's see.
Baltimore.
Baltimore and the Eagles.
Yeah, and somebody plays Carolina this week. Oh,
Detroit.
Detroit, and I got Detroit over Carolina.
Okay, so you're giving us four. You can't give us four picks, Jim. I know you're trying to make up, your losses here.
The Steelers
you're
in
three.
Baltimore. So I did give you three.
I think Mac's counting the Bears as your pick still. We got to let Mac know they play Thursday night, Mac.
The Bears have already played. I was joking.
Okay,
on that.
Tennessee, Baltimore, Philly, and you got. Yes, you were, and the underdog Jim had. You got them written down there, baby.
Wait a minute. I think
Underdog is
Rams.
Okay, the Rams are your underdog. We got you, Jim.
yes.
Yeah.
And then why did y'all have?
All right, Jim. We're gonna let you go.
Okay.
Why? What?
Why did
We're gonna let you
make
go. The reception is not great.
that? This is Robert Stein. He gets paid a lot.
That's okay, Jim.
I
That's
agree. I agree.
I'm okay.
All right, Jim.
you
You
guys
take it
have a
easy,
good
buddy.
show.
We'll
Yeah,
see.
Jim.
buddy.
All right.
All right, buddy. All right. Jim's
All
out of
right,
here.
Matt.
Get out of here. Anyway, Robert, back to
Yeah.
you. I had
That's
to
all
get
right.
him in because he made the effort. He had to make the effort going in there. Arizona is moving on from Kyler Murray as far as what I just saw this morning. Kyler Murray
Yeah.
wanted to come back, and it looks like they're not too interested in what he wants right now.
Right. And my guess is if he does come back, they'll try to protect him as much as possible. I think that they're going to try to move on from they, meaning Michael Bidwell. He's pushing to move off Murray. I believe that he's having buyer's remorse on Murray. It's a very good quarterback class next year. They've got Houston's pick, and they have their own pick next year. So, they want to get him back healthy and maybe trade him or work out something with the money is my guess.
It's going to be hard, Rob. It's hard. They guaranteed him a lot of money.
Yeah.
And unless another team is willing to pick that contract up, I mean, they're stuck with them. Just the way the Denver Broncos was stuck with Russell Wilson this season and going forward. If they were able to get out of that contract to Broncos, Wilson wasn't going to be their starting quarterback this year. No way at all. And I think with Kyler Murray, they're basically stuck. They have a problem.
Well, guys, the Rams right now, and I'm with Jim. I think they have a really good shot to beat Philadelphia today. They have $70 million in dead cap this year. Could they find a way to push it off to 1 year and just have that first year with that rookie quarterback, even though and get another really good draft pick because they have a lot of dead money from the Kyler Murray. So that something like that could be a possibility. With that $70 million in dead cap for the Rams.
Well, the Cardinals. You mean
yeah,
the Cardinals?
Well, I'm saying the Cardinals may try something like that because the Rams, they're somewhat presentable. They're somewhat presentable with that kind of money in dead cap.
But Rob, what happens if Matthew Stafford wants to continue playing? He's still effective. So are they necessarily going to want to move on from Matthew Stafford if he wants to still be there?
Yeah. They may keep him. I mean, they'll have $50 million in cap room next year and only $700,000 in dead money, which is one of the best. One of the best next year with the Rams. So there's a few ways to get around the cap, and they're showing us that.
Sure, that one way Kyler Murray for Daniel Jones a trade.
We got enough headaches already.
We're the same guy. Except Jones is taller though.
We don't need no more headaches than that anyway. Let's get to the Atlanta quarterback Ritter and the Detroit Wheels. What are they going to do with him? When is it enough for Ritter for him to sit down for a while?
My guess is, I'll say this: if they're down at halftime to Houston today at home, they shouldn't be, but Houston's getting 2 offensive linemen back. Houston's playing good. I think that Taylor Heineke could be the quarterback in the third quarter today, guys. Today.
Wow. Because
they scored 13 points. 13 points. The last 2 games combined, he's 31st in QBR. That's second to last, Desmond Ritter. They went out and got all these got a running back. I mean, they got high draft capital in Kyle Pitts and Drayton London. They got a fair to decent offensive line. They got a left tackle. What else does this guy need? They got a much better defense, especially at home. If not, Arthur Smith could get let go. And he knows that, Arthur Smith.
But shouldn't Desmond Ritter be given a little more of a chance? I know he's a 4-year start at the University of Cincinnati, but he doesn't make a lot of mistakes. He just doesn't, make things happen.
Yeah.
That's the problem about it. But he doesn't make the big mistakes that leave you exasperated, at least. And it's a second year in the league. The first year he backed up Mariota a good part of the year, and he played at the end of the year. I mean, how much time is enough? That's enough. Can we make that judgment? He just doesn't have what it takes right now.
Yeah, that's true. But with Arthur Smith looking at Arthur Blank over there, the owner, he's thinking, well, I got to put this team in best position to win this game. And this guy, the light bulb's not going off. They invested a whole off season. It's his second year. Quarterbacks take their their biggest jump from year 1 to year 2. They got an offensive-minded head coach. They got all the people. What else does he need? You know? So
Yeah,
maybe he's just backup material, guys.
You know, Weineke is not a bad. He's a good second string quarterback.
Yeah.
And I think Ritter might be a good second string quarterback too. We'll see what happens.
They'd probably be in the market next year. They may be a team that may go after Stafford. I read that last offseason, guys.
That's possible. I did too, Robert.
Yeah.
Joe Burrows. Do we sit him or do we play him? What should Cincinnati be doing?
Supposedly, in air quotes, guys, he's off the injury report today. And I've been saying this for a month now.
Yeah.
That Zach Taylor is so insecure that we're all going to find out how mediocre it's a bad coach he is. He don't want to bench Joe Burrow. You know, and Joe Burrow was playing it. He's been playing it like 50%, guys.
Yeah.
We know how good this guy is.
I mean, what else would you, if you're a defensive coordinator, you're just going after Joe Burrows the whole game.
Just blitz him the whole time.
Yeah, the whole game. It's not a hard game plan to do. I mean, to me, it's ridiculous.
Why can't football have a different mentality? If Burrow, you're not sure whether you want to play him or not, start Jake Brown in your backup and bring Burrow in the second half if the game is on the line. Bring him in at that point. This way you're not playing him the whole game and see how the game evolves at that point. Okay? You know, give them a short window, like a quarter and a half or 1 quarter. Let's say the game you're losing 10-7. Bring them in late in the third quarter at that point. I mean, see how it evolves. But the mentality is either play the guy the whole game or don't play him at all. It's always an all or nothing decision that these coaches make.
You know, Jack, the Titans did that with Steve McNair and Neil O'Donnell one time.
Oh,
O'Donnell came in, played against his former team, the Steelers. They got down. He got banged up. McNair comes in, throws 4 passes. Titans win. Nashville was living happily ever after for that Sunday.
Yeah. Very true. It's very true. Quarterback Anthony Richard, first quarterback in NFL history to run for 3 touchdowns in his first 3 games. Listen, the kid's exciting. He makes things happen. And right now, you know, you add in Taylor there, they're a force to be reckoned with. Robert.
Yes, that is exactly what he had in mind, Jim Irsay. And he was my mock draft for the Colts. But watching him in Florida from day one, I said, yeah, they're wanting to use a guy like, because he reminded me a lot of Hurts. He's slightly bigger than Hurts. He's a little taller, you know. They both got that leg drive there. So that's the idea. Then you add that running back, and we talked about DeAndre Swift and his success there in Philadelphia. Jonathan Taylor with Anthony Richardson make this a power running team here. Now, of course, I do think that offense can be dangerous and limit your quarterback because he's already had a concussion. He's not even played a full month yet. So I don't like that quarterback rush right into the linebacker bag. Yeah,
that's true. But with Minshew there as a backup, that's not a bad backup to have.
No, they beat Baltimore guys.
Yeah,
with Gardner
so,
Minshew.
That was
Anthony,
very smart.
wait, Rob, I can't let this pass. Rob, you compared Anthony Richardson to Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is a much better passer. Anthony Richardson hasn't shown he's a quality passer in the NFL yet. He's been doing things with his legs, and that's going to catch up to him. It's absolutely going to catch up to him. You could compare him to other running quarterbacks like Lamar Jackson, but Lamar Jackson can pass, okay? Josh Allen runs around a lot with his legs. You know, he's a heck of a passer. Anthony Richardson hasn't shown that ability at all as of yet.
Remember, Jalen Hurts transferred because he had problems making his second read at Alabama. He goes under Lincoln Riley. And then he still was a second-round pick, so I would have to disagree. He struggled to make his second read. I was out on Jalen Hurts until last year. And finally, the guy
Very
he just beat it. He just outworked it. He worked really hard and he got it. But remember, he had some troubles making his second read.
I agree, and and the same thing with Jackson. Jackson had a lot of problems in the beginning too, being accurate too. So I mean, that's just I think that's a normal progression with these types of quarterbacks. He hasn't thrown bad. He hasn't thrown. He hasn't thrown bad, Rich. I mean, he threw for over 200 something yards his last game, which isn't bad. One last before you go, Robert, if you can, give us your fantasy team for today.
All righty then. Something, anybody that's if you're doing daily or you're drafting, the Kansas City and Minnesota is going to be a very good fantasy day for teams. And we talked about this earlier. The Rams and the Eagles, that should be Cooper Kupp's back. That's going to be a really good game. I took Jalen Hurts at quarterback. Speaking of the devil there, David Montgomery. Now, Detroit, Carolina's supposedly 30th against the run, according to FanDuel here. And Devon Atchin, I've been riding him for the last few weeks. He's got like 4 touchdowns in the last 2 weeks. He's going against your Giants. They're 23rd against the run. Puka Nacua, even though Cooper Kupp's back, I think Nakua's a big part. Puka Nacua leads the whole NFL in receptions, guys, a rookie. Yeah. So if Stroud falls off, he'll get Rookie of the Year. And
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. Jordan Addison, Michael Pittman from Indianapolis. He is Titans are still 25th against the pass. I think Richardson will probably hit him for a couple of deep routes. So Tennessee's going to sell out to stop Richardson. And Dallas Goedert got a target there. The Rams 24th. And what defense did I take? I took a chance and took Houston's defense and a flex player, Sky Moore, for the Kansas City Chiefs there. I think he'll bounce back this week. Him and Mahomes will hook up.
All right. I got them written down. I want to see how good you do this week.
It's been a rough last few weeks.
Yes, that's all right. That's it. Ready to bounce back. We all have a bad spell. Robert, thanks for coming in. As you always do on every Sunday. Robert Butler from Sportscope. Folks, check out his sites everywhere. Just
have a good show, guys.
Take care, Robert.
See you, man.
So there you go, guys. Robert Butler, our big story breaker, now fantasy football expert too. Even though he's lost it three last week, that doesn't mean he's good. Quick message here from Commander Nash.
Hey everybody, this is Commander Nash. I'm here in Freeport, Bahamas, rocking out my Freeport, Bahamas Commander t-shirt and hat. We didn't get the win Thursday. I thought we was going to play better, but the Bears brung the fight. They deserve it. I can see a lot of changes in our Washington Commander organization. We don't play this Sunday, so we'll rest up and we'll get ready. I'll be at the MGM in Maryland when we have a watch party versus the Atlanta Falcons and Commanders. So I'm still representing my Commanders. It's going to be a long season, but go Commanders, take command, and y'all enjoy y'all's game Sunday. And this is Commander Nash live at Freeport, Bahamas. Over and out.
So Commander Nash comes in. He thinks there's going to be a lot of changes in the Commander organization. So, hey.
I like Commander Nash in that he's a realist. He said this is going to be a long season. Because when you lose at home to the 0-4 Chicago Bears, that means it's going to be a long season. So he's prepared for it. He's being realistic. Not like you, Mac, with your Giants 1-3.
What am I saying about
bravado for what they're going to do going forward?
Yes, they're gonna make the playoffs this year, Jack, just like your Jets are. So let's do what we normally do here at this part of the show. As we end up, Jack, what do we do here? We pick our underdog.
I don't know, Mac. As long as we don't talk hockey, the hockey season starts.
Song there is, and it fits right in well with us as we discuss our underdog picks. Jack, I want to get yours first because I gave mine. And people that haven't listened, you'll hear it for the first time. But Jack has not officially given his underdog pick. And let's see who Jack picks for his underdog. Who do you got, Jack?
I got the Jets. I can't believe they're underdogs to the Broncos.
Again.
Yes, and then they came through. Didn't they come through last
They
week?
did.
Okay? They'll
They
come
did.
through again. They're 2-point. What are they? 2-point underdogs, Mac? They
That's
shouldn't be
almost a
underdogs.
pick 'em. That's almost a pick 'em.
Oh, Denver's slightly favored. Am I correct?
Yeah, but it's almost a pick 'em. I mean,
Okay, it doesn't matter. They could be favored by a quarter of a point, Denver, and that makes the Jets an underdog.
you know, like
So I am picking what? Listen, why should I go bold and pick a big underdog? I'm going with the Jets because the Jets are going to win the game outright.
all right, all
The
right.
Denver Broncos, they finally win a game last week after giving up 70 points to the Dolphins 2 weeks ago. They
Right.
come from behind and they beat the lowly Chicago Bears. And we're thinking that Denver's a good team. They got something going for them. Denver's at least being smart in this sense. The trade deadline's October 31st. They're looking to trade a bunch of players. They're rebuilding Denver. They know they're not contenders. And the Jets will go into Denver today, take care of business. It might be a close game, actually. It might be a close game because Denver's, has a teeny bit of momentum with the one victory that they have. Some guys might not want to get traded. Zach Wilson probably is going to come down to earth a little bit. He's not going to be as good as he was last week, but he's going to be better than what he was. He'll be something like in between, and their defense, should come up with a good effort. So the Jets should win by about 4 points or so, something like 23-19. I don't see a decisive Jet win, but nevertheless, I do see a Jet victory.
Yeah, I was laughing at you because my grandfather was a Jets fan. And you sounded just like my grandfather when you were going off there. It just struck me funny. So that's why I wasn't laughing at your pick. I was laughing at you sounded a lot like my grandfather when I was
experienced a lot of lean years as I did.
Yeah, that's the truth. That's the truth.
Yeah.
And for those of you who weren't in earlier, I like Arizona versus Cincinnati big time. I think Arizona's physical defense will be blitzing at will against Joe Burrows and his hurt leg. So it should be very interesting.
If Cincinnati loses, they were my pick to win the Super Bowl. They go to 1-4, but it's more than just being 1-4. Why they basically be finished for the year? Because when you looked at their schedule, they're supposed to win today's game, even though it's at Arizona. And they were supposed to beat Tennessee last week. You lose games like that to Tennessee and Arizona back-to-back weeks. The schedule just gets tougher late on. The Bengals are finished as far as, being a Super Bowl contender if they lose today. I got to think they'll find a way to beat Arizona today. Arizona's been playing over their head, even though they're only 1-3. But the Bengals absolutely have to show up against Arizona.
Well, I totally disagree with playing over their heads. I think they're playing the way they play. They're very physical. That young the defensive head coach that came over from the Eagles has them playing Eagles football, at least Eagles defensive football. And that running game with the Cardinals is no joke. I expect them to run the ball in Cincinnati today, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Anything can happen. Little Eagles news because Pags, of course, is all excited. The Phillies playing and beat the Braves, and he's in seventh heaven right now, and he's probably tuckered out. He was out at a watch along at a bar, so I imagine he's out. So little Eagles news: they added cornerback Bradley Roby for depth at defensive back. Jason Kelsey says the NFL is sending letters because on that push, when they push the quarterback, the Eagles are lined up off sides. So the NFL instead of look what we got here. It looks like I might have the Philly sports guy coming in right at the right time.
It's ridiculous, Mac. I mean, I would have assumed before the team started doing it that there was a rule in effect. You can't push your own player, and you're creating a risk of additional injury. You're pushing him into someone who's pushing the other way, and he's sandwiched in the middle. I mean, get rid of the darn rule. I mean, the next thing we're going to know, runners during a marathon race, they get tired at the end, and if other runners pick them up and carry them over the finish line, it's going to count.
Pags, I know Pags is not a fan of what you're saying right now. But you know something, Jack? Not every NFL team can do what the Eagles do. I've seen a couple teams try it, and they didn't pick up the first down. So, I mean, listen, the rule is the rule until they change the rule. Right now, the Eagles are
Until
using
someone
it to their
gets
benefit.
injured. Until someone gets injured.
Good morning. Good morning to the Philly sports guy. Pags, I know you got to be tired after last night. Thanks for coming in and joining us. So, Pags, I was talking Eagles when you came in. They did pick up a cornerback for depth, Bradley Roby. I don't know if you heard about it or not, but he has been picked up by the Eagles to shore up your defensive backfield there.
Yay. I don't know much about him. I did hear they picked up a cornerback, though.
Okay. And as you
But
came in,
you guys are crying about the tush push. You guys are crying about the tush push. That's what Jack is saying. He's like, okay, somebody's going to get hurt. Wow. You know, that's.
It's been
attempted by 8 other teams, including the Jets, and failed. The only one that does it with any consistency is the Eagles.
Well, that's going to come to it. They might get away with it today in Los Angeles against the Rams, even though I wouldn't try it against Aaron Donald directly, not on his side. But I'm going to say this. I mean, they'll be held to pay for the Eagles next week trying that against the Jet defensive unit. I mean, I don't think they'll try that against the Jets or the Rams, not against Aaron Donald and not against the Jets. They could do it against weaker teams. They could kind of bully them, the Eagles, but not against Aaron Donald or the Jets.
So that's what you say. You don't want us to do this tush push or this brotherly shove or whatever they want to call it. Don't get us in 3rd and 1.
It's not fair.
Stop us. Stop the offense.
The
it's
Eagles
fair
play
fine.
all these gimmick players like Allen, the hurdler, Devon Allen. They figure he's going to jump over people. The hurdling is dangerous, but they figure he's a world-class hurdler. He's going to hurdle over other players.
This is what I came on this show for. This is what I'm doing here. This early in the morning. You're talking about Devon Allen, who hasn't made it on the field because he can't catch a punt. You're talking about that guy.
Well,
other than the fact that he's got world-class speed. Other than the fact that he's got world-class speed, you're looking at the hurdling part. So the fact that he hasn't even made it onto the field, but you're saying that there's gimmick players. You know what, Jack? You need to get your head checked because just because the Jets suck and they continue to suck. That's why you got to pick on everybody else. But that's okay. That's okay, Jack.
We got to take care of business against Denver today. Then my Jets will see you next week when the Eagles come to our town, MetLife Stadium.
Hold on. How many times have the Jets ever beaten the Eagles?
Well, next week they'll beat them.
Hold on. But so you're going off of past experience. How many times previously have the Jets ever beaten the Eagles?
They haven't played much. They're not there. You're confused.
Hold on. How about throughout the entire time that since the very first game that the Eagles have ever played the Jets, how many times have the Jets won?
I'm not going back 30 years and all that.
Well, I'll tell you, the Jets are 0-14. 0-14. It's the only competition in the NFL where one team has not won. That's what it is. So you could say whatever you want. Bop. The Jets are going to lose again, become 0-15 New York Jets against the Eagles. They have never, ever beaten the Eagles. Never.
There you go. Pags, let's get your matchup against the Rams. You know that Stafford's going to come out throwing. Their running game isn't great. I would imagine the defensive line, as Jack mentioned, when Aaron Donald is not a bad defense. Are you worried at all that the Eagles might lose this game against the Rams?
I'm not concerned about a loss. I think that again, we still haven't even played a complete game yet. So it's going to be interesting to see how this goes. Obviously, we got Fletcher Cox is out for this. Everything is always going to have to go off of, where they are, the offensive line versus the defensive line. I feel like this is where this battle is going to be won, and we're going to have a guy who's going to start for the first time, Opeta, going up against Aaron Donald. So it's going to be interesting to see how well Opeta holds up against a world class like Aaron Donald, and just to see how our defensive line, without one of its mainstays, does against the Rams offensive line.
It's going to be interesting. It's going to be an interesting
I think
matchup.
that's where the game's going to be won and lost.
It's going to be an interesting matchup, though, Pags, with the young receiver, Akua, who's leading the league, Cooper Kupp coming back against your defensive backs, too. You got two of the best defensive backs in the league. I think that's going to be an interesting matchup for the game, too.
Again, I think it's all going to be more determinant on how quickly we can get to Stafford.
That's a good point.
Frank Laterzo makes an excellent point about the Eagles having not played a really good top of the line team yet this season. He's pointing that out, Laterzo. Laterzo doesn't
I
like
know that Frank wants to keep bap in his mouth too. He's going to bap all he wants.
I mean,
Go ahead, Frank. Continue to bap. Yes, you know what? You know how many teams are undefeated in this league right now? Last I checked, there was only 2. You know who's one of them? Philadelphia Eagles. So keep bapping.
That's very true.
See the Jets next week.
Yes, and they're worried about that.
Yeah, you know what? And that's another team that we're undefeated against. The Eagles. The Jets have never beaten the Eagles.
Yes,
never, ever.
Throughout
your entire life, Jack, your entire life, the Eagles have always won.
Pags,
the only team in the NFL that's done that.
Do you have your picks ready for us? I want to see if you had your picks and your underdog pick ready for us.
Yeah, give me 1 sec. Let me pull up the game so that I can.
All right.
I like. Well, this is a gimme. I think the Dolphins. I think the Giants stink. I think the Panthers are going down to the Lions. It's not going to be a close game either.
Mm-hmm.
The Chiefs beat the Vikings. And the upset special is the Arizona Cardinals beating the Bengals.
Me too, Pags. Me too.
Oh, for what it's worth, I do predict the Eagles are going to go to the Super Bowl. For what it's worth. So don't get me wrong. That was my preseason pick, and I am staying with it. I think they're going to merge, and they'll beat the 49ers in the NFC Championship game. But let me say this. Home field advantage might be extremely crucial. You know, if the Eagles have to go to San Francisco as opposed to playing them at home.
I'm not as concerned about that either. I think that the 49ers are closer to peaking now than they are. We'll see how they are later on in the season. I think that they're going to start to falter a little bit. And then the moment that they start to lose a game or so, you're going to start to see the dissension in the ranks, because when you cry as much as you do after you lose last year and be like, oh, wait, well, we needed our quarterback, blah, 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 blah. You know, truth of the matter is that had they had a good offensive line, they probably wouldn't have lost their quarterback, and it still wouldn't have made a difference in that game. So
no, the Eagles did have the easiest possible ride into the Super Bowl. Let's be honest about it. I mean, they earned it. They earned it by getting the bye. Kudos to the Eagles. The other teams had a chance to earn it, and they didn't do it. The Eagles earned it. But they had to beat a limited Giants team. And then the Niners team let's be honest, Purdy was hurt. I don't think it would have made a difference. I think the Eagles would have won anyway. But it's like the Eagles won that game by default, basically. They didn't have a quarterback who could throw the ball and come in with Josh Johnson. He was totally ineffective. He got hurt, and then they had to bring back Purdy, who couldn't pass for more than 3 yards. The Eagles earned it by getting in that position. So kudos to them. But the ride's not going to be this easier this year. They're going to have some fierce challenges, to get back to the Super Bowl, which I think they ultimately will.
And Frank, that's Peeking, peaking.
Okay, so guys, we got 2 guests coming up here in a little bit. We got Jetman and we got Chris Pomay will be joining us, Pags. I know you know Chris. He'll be coming in talking a little Canadian football. He's a big Eagles fan, but I want to get him in. I was hoping Jeffco's going to do an autograph signing today, so he's not with us. And I was hoping that that he would be there because he covers the Aeronauts that Jeffco's son plays for him, almost possible. So anyway, let's start on the rest of the games that we haven't picked yet. We did Carolina, Tennessee, and Indianapolis. I want to go over with you real quick. I think this is going to be a really interesting game because you got 2 basically running teams running against each other, 2 decent defenses. The only thing you got different is you got a running quarterback with Indianapolis compared to a pocket quarterback in Ryan Tannehill. What do you guys think? Do you think Indianapolis Colts are a little bit better than Tennessee this week?
Toss-up game. I think it comes down to field goal.
Okay.
I could see an 18-15 type score, coming down to the buzzer, basically, the final seconds. And I think Tennessee's going to actually win in Indianapolis. They're going to edge them out. I'm not all sold on the Colts. They re-signed Jonathan Taylor. He's ready to go, supposedly, for this game. But he's been off for a while. And the jury's still out on Anthony Richardson. He's charismatic. I know he runs for touchdowns, but the jury's still out. I think Tennessee with Mike Vrabel's just a little steadier.
Bags, what are your thoughts?
So, for some reason or another, the Colts have the Titans number. Colts are the reason why the Titans didn't, or is it the other way around? I can't seem to remember properly, but I think the Colts beat the Titans a lot. And for unknown reasons, and this goes back to even when Wentz was there. So I don't know why that dynamic even occurs, because you would think that the Colts really are not as good as the Titans are, but these are divisional games, and that division is a weirdo division. So I think that there is that could be in the head of the Titans a little bit, and. I wouldn't put it past Indianapolis winning this game. In fact, I would take them with the points.
I like it.
So I have it as
I think on the Colts
Jacksonville.
point.
Yeah, it's basically. I said it's basically a pick 'em. That's basically what it is. 1 point. I mean, it's basically a pick 'em. Jacksonville. His new home is London. Buffalo's coming in there. They're considered the home team because of the way the schedule is. Do you think Buffalo beats the Jacksonville Jaguars by more than 5.5? Jack, what do you think?
Oh boy, I mean, yeah, I think they do. I think Jacksonville's going to keep it competitive. Jacksonville's an enigma because of all the teams in the NFL. You never know what Jacksonville Jaguar team's going to show up. Just when you think they're ready to take off and be one of the better teams in the NFL, their young players are going to surge. They fall back and they lose a game you wouldn't expect them to lose. And then when you start to ride them off a little bit, they surprise you. But the way the Bills are playing now, they're playing on a real high. And I don't think teams take other teams lightly when they go to London. I think they're automatically psyched by that atmosphere. But I could see the Bills winning a game like 24-17.
Bags, before you get to your pick, we're going to bring up Chris from the Canadian Football League. Of course, he covers Toronto Argonauts. I know I'm saying it wrong, Aeronauts or whatever it is.
The Argonauts.
He'll straighten me out when he gets up here. So, the Argonauts, thank you. So let's bring up Chris.
Hey, good morning, guys. How you doing?
Chris, how you doing
Good morning,
Good.
Chris.
today, my friend?
Good. It's our Thanksgiving here in Canada today.
Yeah, there you go.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Ours is a month earlier than yours, but hey, thank you for having me on here, guys. And I hope you're all doing well. And I've been busy with the CFL, the NFL, and college football, so my life is basically around football right now for the next few months.
And I don't want to let you go, Chris, without asking you, could the Canadian Football League champions, how would they do against the USFL champions?
It depends on the rules. Like the CFL, the NFL in the past played 10 games, and the CFL won 6 out of the 10 matchups. But the last CFL NFL matchup was back in 1961. So it's been a long time, but it depends on the rules. But like I said, guys, I love the CFL. You got 9 teams right now. Obviously, the top team is the Toronto Argonauts. They are the defending Grey Cup champs. They're 13-2 right now, and they're kind of doing a load management because they've got a couple more games before the playoffs start, and you want to keep those guys healthy. And one thing I wanted to say, too, Chad Kelly has come up to Canada, and I've interviewed him a few times. He's always had the talent to play in the National Football League, but he got himself into some trouble with the law in your country, in the States. And Chad signed a 3-year deal with the Argonauts, and he seems to have fit in Toronto, and he loves the CFL. I'm not sure. He has an out clause to come back to the NFL if he wants to, but he's well loved down here in Toronto, and the players seem to love him, and he's picked up on the game. And he even told me it took him a little time to adjust from the American game to the Canadian version.
So Chris, the Toronto Argonauts, Jim Jeffcoat's son plays for them, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Winnipeg
Blue Bombers. Winnipeg, yeah.
Winnipeg.
Jackson Jeffcoat. Winnipeg Blue Bombers.
All right.
And Winnipeg,
so
they've been to the Winnipeg. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying that I know that they were in the Cup race last year. They were in the championship. Is that who they played, Toronto?
Yes, Winnipeg's actually been in the last 3 Grey Cups, 2019, 2020, the pandemic shut down the CFL, and then Winnipeg went to the Grey Cup again in 21 and beat Hamilton, and then last year Toronto beat Winnipeg 24-23 on all. So Winnipeg is looking good this year. They're 12-4. I think they're going to get out of the West, and I think it's going to be another Toronto Winnipeg Grey Cup this year, which will be in Hamilton at Tim Hortons Field in November with Green Day as a halftime show. And I'm hoping to cover the CFL's Grey Cup championship game as a media member as well this year.
They got a 1-game lead right now over the Lions, if I'm not mistaken. Isn't that correct, Chris?
Yes, and they came back the other night on Friday night to beat BC 32-26 in overtime. So they got a 1-game lead on BC, but they also have the tiebreaker as well currently. So right now the top 3 teams in the CFL, Toronto, Winnipeg, and BC, and then there's a few other teams that are kind of fighting to get in the playoffs.
Right. So it's very interesting. I know a lot of former NFL players came from the Canadian Football League. Joe Theismann, who ended up with the Redskins. Doug Flutie was another one that played Canadian football. I mean, there was a lot of great players that did go to Canada first. Warren Moon, that went to Canada first before they came to the NFL, either because they wanted to start and they wouldn't be starting, or they just wanted a little bit more experience. Canadian football has always been interesting to me, especially the wide open style. I would like to see them, get a little bit more defensive and running games there, but again, it's a very exciting game, Chris.
Hey, one thing, guys, if you don't mind me bringing this up, we just had a player that basically the Jim Brown of the Canadian Football League here. He played 13 years with Saskatchewan from 63 to 76, 134 rushing touchdowns, 16,115 yards, and he's just like our version of Jim Brown, and he just passed away recently. And he's basically, when you think of the Saskatchewan Roughriders, which are Saskatchewan Roughriders here is like the version of the Green Bay Packers here. And George Reed meant a lot to the Canadian Football League. And he came from the States, and he loved it up here and moved up here.
Beautiful, beautiful. We got the Jetman sitting underneath here right now. I know he's going to want to talk a little Jets. And we're also, I want to get your guys' thoughts. We were picking some teams. I know you're all NFL fans here. So we'll get on that. Let's bring Jetman up, say hi to him. Another guest that we bring in quite regularly.
Morning,
How
gentlemen.
You doing, Jetman?
Morning.
Good morning.
Still optimistic. Good morning. Good morning.
Yes, you are. I mean, I would be too if I just got back from vacation and you got one win where, I don't know, Jetman. I still think you guys are in trouble. I still think the real Zach Wilson will appear before the season's out, and you guys will not be in playoff contention. There's too many good teams in AFC right now, Jetman.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, he had one decent game, and when push came to shove, and we needed him not to screw up, he screwed up. He fumbled.
Oh, come on, Jetman. One fumble. It was a physical mistake. He played a great game. Don't let Max negativity get on you. Think positive.
I'm
We're
not.
going to beat Denver today, right?
I think we are. I think
And
the
next
defense,
week, the
I think
Eagles come to us, and let's enjoy the whipping we put on Philadelphia next week. And then we'll be 3-3 and on our way.
I do think that we pull out a win. I think the defense, and I think Breece Hall today. I think we're going to see some regular Zach Wilson. We're going to have to prepare for a few screw ups, but I still don't think he's the answer. I mean, I've been saying for 6 months since they signed Rodgers, they need a backup. They need a backup. They need a backup. Guess what?
Wilson was the backup.
What's that?
Wilson was the backup. Live with Zach Wilson this year. He was good last week. He'll be good going forward. And we'll get into playoffs, and Rodgers is planning on being back for the playoffs.
Listen, Jack. And everybody here, this is my prediction. Zach Wilson throws at least 2 interceptions today. Denver wins the game, and that's what's going to happen out there. So that's my thing. Let's get to the picks, because I want to talk about the Jets all the rest of the show here.
Let me just
Jack
quickly
would love to do.
Let me just quickly show you the shirt that I'm wearing. It's from my daughter. She was a little nervous to give it to me a few Christmases ago, but it's pretty much very, very fitting. I don't know if you guys can read it.
I can read almost. I can see that.
Yeah, we almost always win. The Jets.
All right. So we've got a realist on the show with us anyway. So we were talking a little bit about the Jackson Buffalo game. Jacksonville, this is like their second home, right? London is now. They're there all the time. Buffalo's coming in there, had a big win. They got to travel all the way there. Jacksonville's there already. Is there a chance that maybe Buffalo's, has a down game? Jacksonville's refreshed, Buffalo's tired, and Jacksonville beats the Bills. Let's go. I'm going to ask you this first, Chris. What do you think?
The Bills have struggled against the Jacksonville Jaguars the last couple of times, and their linebacker, Josh Allen, has already picked off Buffalo's Josh Allen a few times. Buffalo's coming off a high right now, beating the Miami Dolphins. And I'm going to use the word here, trap game. I'm going to go with the Jaguars in an upset this morning, 30-28 upset.
Wow. Now that's a hot take. What do you think, Jetman? What's your take on this?
I think it'll be a close game, but I think Buffalo pulls it out. I don't know, 35-24. Close through the half. Maybe tie at the half.
They're even giving scores out, Jack. What do you think about that? These guys are ready to talk some football there.
Yeah, listen, I like going out on the limb doing stuff. I mean, Pax hedges a little sometimes with the scores and stuff, but that's okay.
So
Yes,
I didn't realize it was a 5-point spread. What I tell you guys about 5-point spreads? That is always an underdog line. Definitely go with Jacksonville here.
Mm.
And I think you've been wrong the last couple of times you said that, Jack. There, Pax.
That's actually not true.
Houston,
actually,
oh, look it up. It is too. Houston and
Look it up.
Atlanta. I already did. Houston and Atlanta. Houston is underdog to Atlanta, which I don't understand. Listen, I love the way Houston has been playing. I love their quarterback. They're tough. They're physical. Atlanta's having problems right now. Jack, are you going to go out on a limb and say Atlanta can win this game?
I don't know. I mean, I kind of feel the Texans have something going with C.J. Stroud. Yeah, I thought C.J. Stroud should have been the number 1 overall pick, even though I think Bryce Young is going to be a top of the line NFL quarterback. I just think Stroud's going to be a little better. And Houston's had some of the offensive line injured, but they have built a good offensive line. They're building something in Houston with a new coach and so on. And I'm not overly impressed with the Falcons' preseason predictions. We're building the Falcons up like they were going to win the division. I just don't see them being that good, even though they have a couple of really good weapons. I like Houston there, something like 26-20.
Pags, what do you think? You think Atlanta has a shot at upsetting these guys, even though they're the favorites?
I like the way Houston's kind of, they're taking the personality of their coach, which is I think just he brought winning to them and gave them permission to win, and they're taking advantage of it. Atlanta is starting to turn themselves around, but I don't know that they have the team. They still haven't figured out how to use their tight end yet, and he's he's one of the best tight ends in the league, and they haven't figured it out. And I think that like I said last week, I thought that Atlanta was going to get in their own way. I kind of feel the same way again. I think Houston wins this game.
Chris, do you agree with that? Do you think Houston wins this easy?
Oh, guys. Oh, okay. I'm going to go with Houston over Atlanta 23-16. I like the way the young quarterback from Ohio State, C.J. Stroud's playing. So, yeah, 23-16. Houston wins this game.
Yeah, you have them by 6.
Jetman, are you going to make this unanimous?
6. I have them by 6. Three predictions by 6 points. How do you like that?
I'll take Houston with a 55-yard field goal in overtime to win. Close
and
game.
23-16 is 7 points, Jack, not 6. Just so that I can teach you on math.
I thought it was 23-17. I heard wrong.
Oh, and Jetman, real quick, just because I want to be able to educate Jack a little bit. How many times have the Jets ever beaten the Eagles all time?
Including preseason?
Well, preseason doesn't count, but
they haven't beaten them in preseason.
I mean, how many times? Well, when did we play them last? I mean, we haven't played with any of these players.
2 years ago, and then we played you 3 years ago. Do you want me to keep going backwards?
Pags, why do you got to get him going? Why do you got to get him going on the Jets? Why do you got to get him going on the Jets again? We talk about the Jets at extreme every week.
I'm just trying to educate Jack here. I just want to make sure. I want to make sure he understands that he is inferior. You are inferior to the Eagles.
We're doing you a favor next week. I'm going to tell you why. The Eagles will beat the Rams today, and then next week they become fat.
There we go. And there we go. The other two guests here, so we can keep talking about the other. So we can keep talking about the other games here. because I know Jack wants to talk about the Jets and the Eagles. Bags wants to talk about the Eagles beating the Jets, but I want to push on with the games here. And if you two can agree to do that, I'll let you back on the show. If you can't, it'll just be me, Chris, and Jetman here. So you guys agree? Thank you. All right. So let's get back to it. Pags, Pags muted himself, I think. Pags. All right. So let's get to the Carolina Detroit. Should they bench Bryce Young? I don't even want to know about they're going to lose. Should they bench Bryce Young, Jack? What do you think?
Why bench him? That makes no sense at all, unless you're scared that your offensive line is so terrible that he might get injured. That would be the only logical reason. You don't bench him. He's a good young quarterback. He's going to be a good quarterback in this league. He's a proven winner from Alabama. He's good. The only concern coming out of the draft was that he physically was small. You don't bench him. You take your lumps this year. You lose by a couple of touchdowns to the Lions. He'll learn. He'll get better as he goes along.
Nothing Jets related. I have to agree with Jack.
Yeah. Pags, do you agree with that? I mean, if I'm a player, I want to win. If I'm on a team, I want to win. I don't want to play to lose. So, yeah, I know you're being funny now. Pags.
You have me muted. Yeah, there I get to talk. You know what? Carolina is learning here. They thought they had a better team than they did. I think that Carolina's, they're going to wind up not winning, but like 2 or 3 games this year if they're lucky.
I have the Lions winning this game 31-14. Sorry.
No, I don't think they should bench him. I think this is like his, Peyton Manning. You didn't bench Peyton Manning when he stunk, in his first season. Same situation. Got to learn. Only way you learn, trial by fire.
Yeah.
That's wrong. You learn better by being on the bench and learning off field, like Aaron Rodgers did, and like a lot of great quarterbacks, like Patrick Mahomes. That's how you learn. You don't learn by getting your butt whipped every game. What do you think, Chris?
I agree with Jamie too. You make a point too, because there's been some quarterbacks that needed to sit for a year to learn. But I agree with Jamie on this. You got to play Bryce Young. The only thing I would say is if the game gets really out of hand by the second half and they're down by like 20, 30 points, Detroit's got an aggressive defense. You don't want to see him getting hurt. So I would keep him. I would start him, play him, and see how the game goes. But I do agree with Jamie on this. The only way these guys, the young quarterbacks, learn is they got to take their lumps. And that's the only way they get better long term.
So you're saying don't treat him like Daniel Jones a couple weeks ago against Dallas? Don't do that, right? Keep him in for the whole game.
Yeah, I just if it's a 30-40 point game and they're getting killed, then maybe take him out. But I would get him in there and just get him in the experience and to develop chemistry with his receivers.
But Chris, you're saying two different things. First, you say play him because that's the only way he learns. Then you tell him pull him in the second half because he might get hurt. How's he going to learn anything in the second half by sitting out?
Well, he ain't learning nothing in a 30-0 game. That's what he's saying.
Yeah,
he's not learning anything. He's not learning anything. Period. Right now, Pags. He's learning how to get beat. That's what he's learning. He's learning how to get almost injured. That's what he's learning. You can't.
So then let's ask this then. Let's ask this, Mister. I don't want to talk about New York. Should the Giants bench Daniel Jones?
No
question.
No. Why are you going to bench Daniel Jones? Who are you going to put in? You're going to put in Tyrod Taylor now? It's too late. It's over.
Is it too late?
Daniel Jones ain't lasting another 2 years in New York, guys. He's not lasting another 2 years in New York. He's ready. They're
paid him all that money.
It doesn't matter. They'll find a way to get out of it. He's not going to be there for after 2 years. He's gone. He's not going to be there. Maybe not next. I don't know. Okay,
I think somebody should mute Mac because he's talking about New York teams.
Listen, I'm a realist, Pat. I'm a realist, right? I mean, if the Giants aren't playing well under his leadership and they're not going anywhere, you got to make a decision, right? Eventually, you got to make a decision on a quarterback before it's too late. And I think this is the year. If you don't come back this year, and the Giants don't make kind of a little bit of a run, at least to be respectable, I see you later.
You're going to get your wish, because the Giants are going to wind up with one of the worst records in the league. They're going to have a top 5 pick, and they're going to pick a quarterback, and then they're going to sit him on the bench to learn behind Daniel Jones, and then that quarterback can learn exactly what losing's all about.
He will definitely sit behind. He'll definitely work with the offensive coordinator and a quarterback coach. He'll definitely look at film, and he'll definitely learn how to play the game of football instead of running for your life and getting hit all the time. So that's a lot to learn. So we got Baltimore at Pittsburgh, divisional game, guys. You've got right now Baltimore is favored by 3.5, and they're going into Pittsburgh. What do you think, Jack? Do you think Baltimore is better than Pittsburgh this year, and they're going to win this game?
I'm so disappointed in Pittsburgh this year. I thought they were going to be better than they are. I mean, when Pax said he thinks Tomlin could have a losing record this year after 18 years of winning records, I didn't think so. I thought at the very least they're going to have a winning record. I thought they'd get into the playoffs. This is it then, Pittsburgh. They lose to Baltimore, a division rival there in Pittsburgh. These are the games they got to win. We're going to see what the Steelers are made of today. But with that said, the Ravens are getting guys back from injuries. I think the Ravens pull this game out by a field goal, 20-17 or so.
All right, so at 3.5, then you'll be taking Pittsburgh then.
Yeah, if it's 3.5 points, well, the Ravens, if by 3.5 points, I would take the Steelers, but I do think the Ravens are going to win by 3. But for betting purposes, if I had to bet, I would take the Steelers in this game. Yeah.
Bags, what do you think, buddy?
Like I said, because I seem to know, when I tell you these things, you guys don't believe me, but then I still wind up being right all the time. I believe that the Steelers are going to have a losing season. They don't have the talent on that team on the offensive side of the ball. Pickett is meh at best as quarterback. And I think that's their biggest problem. Their offensive line is decimated. Yeah, they just don't have the same ground and pound type of offensive line that they used to have, where they were able to run the ball all the time. And I think because of that, just alone, that the Ravens are going to win.
Chris, Tomlin's promised that there was going to be changes this week, right? He said they're going to change up things. He meant hitting full pad hitting on Wednesdays. The fans thought he meant changing the offensive coordinator. You think that maybe that Tomlin's time is maybe he's on a hot seat depending on what happens this year?
Well, Tomlin's been there a long time. I still think he's a very good head coach, but when you lose a franchise quarterback like Big Ben Roethlisberger, you got a young kid in Pickett, and they've got problems on the offensive side of the ball, like Jamie was saying. Offensive line, they don't have great receivers, and their offensive coordinator, Matt Canada, the fans in Pittsburgh want him out. For the game today, I got the Ravens winning this game 24-13. I have Ravens win by 11 points. I think Lamar's going to have a very good game against Pittsburgh today, and I think you're going to hear the boo birds in Pittsburgh today when they do drop another game.
Jetman, the Jets have been in this position. The Jets have been in this position. The Giants have been in this position where, you get a young quarterback that comes in, and I mean, they rush him out there, right? Zach Wilson, they rushed out. They rushed out Daniel Jones. They're going to they did rush out Pickett. So, I mean, do you blame the offensive coach, the head coach for that? Or are you going to blame the quarterback for that?
I mean, it's hard to blame the coach here. I don't think he has a losing season, right?
No.
They're kind of like the Yankees, 30 years of winning seasons. I still think that they're
Yankee plug
they might not make the playoffs. But I do like Baltimore today.
Okay. Again, Pittsburgh is a proud city, and a rich tradition of winning Super Bowls. They're like the Yankees. Yankee fans and Pittsburgh Steelers fans don't want to hear you're finishing 500 again. They want the team to go to Super Bowl, win the Super Bowl. So let's push on. We got maybe the most interesting game. I don't know if it'll be the best. It might be. You got the Dallas Cowboys +4 going into San Francisco. What do you think, Jeff? Can the Dallas Cowboys beat San Francisco?
Well, of course they could beat them. I don't think they will. I think the 49ers are going to be really up for this game, as Dallas is going to be. If Dallas should upset the 49ers this game, it doesn't mean they're going to beat them in the playoffs. It happens a lot. One team owns another team in the playoffs, and that team beats them in the regular season, but then loses to them when it really counts the most in the playoffs. I mean, I just think the 49er offense, is going to run wild to an extent. McCaffrey, Samuel, Kittle, Brock Purdy manages the game. And Dak Prescott, I don't see him carrying the Cowboys to win here. 27-16 Niners. I would give the 4 points and take the Niners.
How about you, Pags? You think Dallas has a shot at maybe upsetting San Francisco today?
No, I don't. No, I don't. However, like I said, I'm not believing in Dallas yet. I think that their wins have come against teams who have just gotten in their own way to lose. So when they win so tremendously, and they seem like they look so good, but that's all predicated on their defense. Their offense cannot finish drives, and that's going to continue to be a problem for the Cowboys. And it's going to create a problem for the defense, and they're going to start pointing the fingers. I know that they're 3-1 right now, but I'm standing behind my talk that I think the Dallas Cowboys implode this year.
I mean, great point with not finishing off drives. What do you think, Chris? I mean, we're all heavy on San Francisco here. What would Dallas have to do to beat San Francisco today?
Well, I don't like either team being an Eagles fan, so I'm hoping for a tie, to be honest with you. But for the Dallas Cowboys to upset San Francisco at home, Dallas's defense has got to get some takeaways, pick six, fumbles. They've got to make sure they can shorten the field for Prescott and that Dallas offense. So if the Dallas Cowboys defense can't get some turnaways, and Brock Purdy does not turn the ball over, I don't think he's even thrown an interception this year. So unless Dallas defense can get some turnovers and maybe a big special teams play, I've got the Niners winning this game. I think it'll be a close competitive game, but I got San Francisco 24, Dallas 20 final.
Okay, Jetman, let's talk a little bit about Brock Purdy real quick here. Mr. Irrelevant, Dak gets drafted in the 4th round, so really he wasn't supposed to be a starter right away. Ended up beating out Tony Romo, Purdy got the break when Garoppolo got hurt. Right now, who do you think is the better quarterback? If you were to say right now in the league right now at this time, now past, who's better, Brock Purdy or Dak Prescott?
Right now, I'd say Brock. I just think he's on his game right now. I think the Niners win tonight, and like it was said, I think Dallas's chance is defense. If they cause some turnovers, they can change the game. But I don't think that Dak can overcome the Niners defense.
I think, Matt, that's a little bit of an unfair question, yeah. To say who's just better point blank, it's all relative to how the team is doing.
Well, Jack, everything's relative. I'm just asking the man his opinion. Who he thinks better at this time, which quarterback?
Right, but I could say Brock Purdy's better than Josh Allen based on how he's performing with the Niners, but he's not better than Josh Allen.
I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say Brock Purdy's better than Josh Allen right now.
But you could say that based on how the Niners are performing, but he's not.
I don't think you could, Jack. I think Josh Allen's way better than Brock Purdy right now. I don't even think it's a contest. So I'm just thinking that right now at this time, Brock Purdy is playing better than Dak Prescott. One last before we go, guys. Is getting near the top of the hour, and in case I forget, a lot of comments, a lot of views, a lot of likes and loves today. Thanks, folks. We appreciate all the support you give us. Really, to me, not an interesting game. It's a Monday night game. The Raiders do have Jimmy Garoppolo coming back. Green Bay, a big deal has been made out of Jordan Love. He's like a 50% rated quarterback. What do you got? They're playing in Vegas. Great crowd there. What do you think, Jack? Do you think that Green Bay goes in there and beats Vegas?
I mean, the Raiders are dysfunctional. You never know what they're going to do. This should have been a homecoming game for Devontae Adams if they had been playing in Green Bay, but they're playing in Las Vegas. And the Raiders are this team with all this potential if you look at their individual parts. And I think they're going to win this game something like 26-23. I think for the Packers, the big story of this season is whether Jordan Love is going to be their franchise quarterback. And the jury is still out on them based on what we've seen.
Pags, do you have anything different? Do you think that the Raiders win? Who do you got this game Monday night?
The Packers. The Raiders still are a train wreck, starting with the haircut of the owner. That's what I said. They are going to be from his haircut on down. That whole franchise is an absolute train wreck.
Well, you don't like the bowl haircut, Pags? It's been used for years. You know what I mean?
Last time it was in fashion was with Mo.
Right. That's the Three Stooges. You are correct. Chris, anything different? Let's put it this way. How would the Raiders beat the Packers?
How would the Raiders beat the Packers? Well, first of all, Jimmy G needs to be staying in the game, and he needs to not turn the ball over. I believe he's had, a concussion already, so I don't know if he can even get through this game. But I'm going to tell you this already. That game in Vegas, I would say 90% of that crowd will be Packer fans because every team that comes to Vegas, it's basically a home game for that road team. I really think the Raiders are the most dysfunctional franchise right now in the NFL, or one of them. And Jimmy G is not the answer either. And you're going to start hearing the fans want Josh McDaniels out of there. So I'm going to go with Jordan Love and the Packers to win this game in a road home game for the Green Bay Packers.
Now, Jedman, before you give me your pick, Jimmy G was one of the quarterbacks that the Jets were talking to and decided not him, Derek Carr. Jimmy G was one of the ones that the Jets were talking to before, in place of Aaron Rodgers, in case something happened. Do you think that with Aaron Rodgers being hurt right now and his age, do you think Jimmy G might have been a good quarterback for the Jets this year?
I'll take him in a second.
Really?
Yes.
Interesting.
But just like the sentiment here, I think the only way the Raiders can win is if they keep the ball for 40 minutes tomorrow night. They need ball control, which I don't see happening. Their defense is just porous. I think I take Green Bay. And just so everyone knows, I'm sure you're all watching Jacksonville with the early lead. Zay Jones with a touchdown, 7-0.
I am not watching here because it is way, way, way early in the morning here in Los Angeles.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. You are in Los Angeles. I forgot about that, Pags. So, folks, I want to thank you for joining us today. Again, a great show. Thanks to Robert Butler for coming in. Pags, always a favorite on our show on Sundays. Chris, great job today. Great having you on. Maybe we'll talk a little bit more Canadian football down the road, especially, with the playoffs coming up again. Jetman, always a pleasure having you on. You guys have a great day, folks. Have a great Sunday. And no matter who your NFL team is, I hope your team wins today.